Same thing Nnamdi Kanu has been lamenting all about. All about. Nigeria is not working well. Give us Biafra. It became a big deal. Give us Biafra. Since Nigeria is not working well, because if Nigeria is actually working well and, you know, he's talking about Biafra, it will be as if, oh, he wants division. But at this point, it is not even about Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba. Everybody is in this together. And it's not funny. As a matter of fact, I just feel so bad.
The conversation around statements made by Destiny Etiko and the recurring references to Motsi Nnamdi Kanu has generated a wave of reflection, prompting many people to reconsider how national concerns evolve over time and how public perception shifts when events begin to align with earlier warnings. In analyzing this development, it becomes important to maintain an objective tone, to avoid taking extreme positions, and to focus on the broader socio-political atmosphere that influences reactions across different groups. As always, for viewers following this analysis, feel free to stay engaged by subscribing, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and contributing to a constructive dialogue that moves conversations forward responsibly. When Destiny Etiko expressed her feelings and acknowledged that her "I don't open," she echoed a sentiment shared by countless individuals who begin to observe systemic issues more clearly with time, especially when those issues intensify or become more evident in daily experience. It is not unusual for public figures or citizens to reach a point where they recognize that earlier warnings, even when dismissed or perceived as exaggerated, might contain elements worth reconsidering. This does not require full ideological alignment with any individual or movement, rather, it demonstrates the natural process of reflection as social conditions change. Observers often find themselves in positions where they look back at earlier commentary and realize that certain concerns, once controversial or rejected, now fit more seamlessly into the lived reality of many communities. In such moments, it becomes essential to analyze the evolution of these public reactions within a neutral, respectful, and analytical framework, especially for an audience that values measured insights. And as you listen, remember you can subscribe and share your perspective below, helping to sustain balanced conversations. When Nnamdi Kanu repeatedly expressed dissatisfaction with certain structural challenges within the larger national system, his statements were met with mixed reactions, ranging from strong solidarity to skepticism, criticism, or complete dismissal. Many argued that his emphasis on issues like regional marginalization, governance inefficiencies, and socio-economic disparities represented a narrow or divisive viewpoint. Others believed he was amplifying long-standing frustrations that had been minimized for years. Over time, the intensity of the public response grew, making the topic one of the most sensitive and polarized discussions in national discourse. Yet, despite the controversies surrounding his method or messaging, the recurring theme of systemic dysfunction resurfaced again and again. And now, as more voices across different regions express discontent with socio-political conditions, it becomes clearer why those earlier discussions continue to resurface. This moment invites an examination not of who was right or wrong but of why certain issues persist across administrations, regions, and demographic groups. The need for stability, fairness, and accountability remains central to the expectations of any democratic society. As we reflect on this, remember to support this channel with a subscription and a thoughtful comment to keep the conversation alive. What becomes even more significant, from an analytical perspective, is that the sentiment now expressed by individuals like Destiny Etiko is not confined to a specific ethnic group, political ideology, or advocacy line. The frustration extends across diverse communities, demonstrating that social challenges rarely affect only one segment of the population. When she said that it is not even about Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, she articulated a reality that many Nigerians confront today, a recognition that economic pressures, security concerns, governance issues, and institutional limitations impact citizens regardless of identity or region. This perspective aligns with the idea of shared collective experience, a concept often discussed in socio-political studies, where various groups are influenced by the same structural factors even if their cultural backgrounds differ. It shows that national issues, when they reach a certain scale, have the ability to unify public sentiment in unexpected ways. For viewers following this analysis, feel free to drop a comment with your own observations, and if you find this approach insightful, kindly subscribe and share so more people can join this conversation. The emotional undertone of Destiny Etiko's statement, "I just feel so bad," further reinforces the profound personal impact these national challenges have on individuals. It is common in political psychology for emotional responses to become stronger when public figures acknowledge societal difficulties, validating the frustrations of ordinary citizens who may feel unheard. Emotional resonance often fuels increased public engagement, as people start to recognize their experiences in the expressions of others. This can create a feedback loop where collective frustration pushes conversations into mainstream attention. At the same time, emotional reactions must be understood within a broader context. They represent a symptom of ongoing socio-economic stressors affecting citizens across different regions. By understanding these emotional expressions within a wider analytical framework, we avoid oversimplification and focus instead on the deeper structural causes behind such sentiments. If you find value in this type of careful and balanced breakdown, remember to subscribe and share your viewpoint in the comments. Thoughtful engagement helps maintain a constructive space for important public discussions. The statement, "Nigeria is not working well," repeated multiple times in various public dialogues, reflects a growing level of concern shared widely among citizens. This does not necessarily mean that the country is failing entirely, rather, it highlights structural pressures that reduce overall functionality in key areas such as economic management, security coordination, infrastructure development, and institutional efficiency. Scholars often refer to this period as phases of systemic friction, where the gap between the expectations of the population and the performance of public institutions widens noticeably. During such times, complaints grow louder not because individuals become more rebellious but because conditions intensify the visibility of existing problems. When viewers hear criticisms framed in this way, it is crucial to interpret them not as attacks but as collective calls for improvement, transparency, and reform. Discussions like this help build awareness, and your engagement, through subscribing, liking, and commenting, helps amplify balanced perspectives over sensationalism. One of the most persistent themes in the statements referenced is the call for Biafra, which historically comes with intense emotional weight and political sensitivity. It is necessary to approach this topic carefully, respectfully, and within YouTube-safe boundaries, focusing strictly on analysis rather than advocacy. When individuals like Nnamdi Kanu call for Biafra, they often frame it as a response to feelings of marginalization or dissatisfaction with national structures. To analyze this objectively, we must recognize that separatist demands around the world often emerge when groups believe that the central system is unable to address their needs effectively. This does not imply agreement with such demands, rather, it allows us to evaluate the psychological and socio-political factors that create conditions for such sentiments to grow. Today, however, even people who do not support secessionist ideas openly acknowledge that the concerns fueling these discussions, lack of opportunities, security anxieties, increasing economic pressure, are real and widespread. This explains why the topic has re-entered public conversations. And as you continue listening, feel free to support the channel by subscribing, sharing your thoughts, and helping to expand a respectful conversation. The repetition of the phrase, "Give us Biafra," in the original statement reflects how some groups express the depth of their frustration with existing systems. From a sociological perspective, repetitive demands often signal a perceived disconnect between citizens and institutions, resulting in intensified public expression. It is essential to interpret this not as a threat but as an expression of dissatisfaction that deserves thoughtful evaluation. In communication theory, repeated phrasing serves as a rhetorical tool designed to emphasize urgency. However, it can also become a symbol of broader disillusionment, even among those who do not support the specific demand itself. This is why today, people across various regions voice similar complaints without necessarily using the same terminology. They share the feeling that certain fundamental systems require restructuring to restore public confidence. And while we analyze these dynamics, remember that your engagement through comments and shares helps strengthen this community of viewers committed to thoughtful, guideline-friendly discourse. As public discourse expands, it becomes increasingly clear that many citizens are not responding solely to ideological arguments but to lived experiences that shape their understanding of national functionality. When people across different regions acknowledge that the country is not working as well as it should, they are not necessarily declaring total collapse. Instead, they are pointing to the discomfort created by economic instability, inflation, limited employment opportunities, rising cost of living, infrastructure decay, and security concerns. These are multidimensional problems that affect households daily, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or language. From an analytical perspective, this reflects a phenomenon referred to as socio-economic convergence, a state where individuals from otherwise distinct backgrounds begin to experience similar pressures that create shared grievances. It is this convergence that explains why someone like Destiny Etiko, without being a political activist or an ideological advocate, might publicly resonate with concerns long voiced by figures like Nnamdi Kanu. Her emotional reaction is not unique, it mirrors the growing collective frustration that surfaces when ordinary citizens perceive the gap widening between their aspirations and the reality they face. Such expressions, when they come from widely recognized personalities, can amplify public awareness of systemic issues, not because celebrities hold special knowledge but because their visibility makes their sentiments more noticeable. As you follow this analysis, feel free to subscribe to stay updated and share your insights in the comments, contributing to a well-rounded conversation. The transformation of public perception over time can be understood through the lens of social cognition. When Nnamdi Kanu first raised concerns about governance inefficiencies and systemic marginalization, many citizens reacted defensively, especially those who felt that discussions on Biafra threaten national unity. It is common for societies to resist narratives that challenge established structures, especially when the proposed solutions seem radical or disruptive. But as conditions evolve, public attention gradually shifts from the messenger to the message itself. When real-life experiences begin to align with earlier warnings, for instance, when economic hardships intensify, when security challenges become more widespread, or when public institutions struggle to maintain stability, people start reassessing those earlier messages, not necessarily from a standpoint of agreement but from curiosity and reconsideration. This cognitive shift is often gradual, influenced by personal encounters with the issues at hand. People who once dismissed certain perspectives might begin to acknowledge that the concerns raised, even if they disagree with the proposed outcomes, were rooted in legitimate observations. This evolving public awareness is not an endorsement of secessionist ideas but rather a recognition that systemic challenges require honest examination. As viewers reflect on this, you may share your own evolving perspectives in the comment section, and if you appreciate this unbiased approach, remember to subscribe for more detailed analysis. It is important to highlight that analyzing these issues does not require taking a partisan or ideological position. Critical analysis involves evaluating the underlying structural factors without endorsing divisive narratives. For example, when Destiny Etiko emphasized that the frustrations affecting people are not even about Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, she underscored a crucial point: socio-political challenges in Nigeria have reached a scale where they transcend identity categories. This aligns with the theory of national-level stressors, which posits that when economic or security pressures intensify, the population begins to experience a shared sense of vulnerability, regardless of ethnic or cultural background. These shared pressures create a form of psychological unification, even if temporary, where people realize that the problems affecting one region are similar to those affecting others. This is why individuals across the country, from the north to the south, express comparable concerns about inflation, unemployment, and security dynamics. They may use different terminology or focus on different aspects, but the underlying sentiment remains consistent. This shared emotional terrain is what gives way to the idea that the issue at stake is not about regional identity but about collective national well-being. For viewers listening, you can join this reflective process by sharing your own observations below and subscribing if you find this approach meaningful.